Hi, my name is Chris, and this video is called Forgiving Old Psychological Wounds, Part 1. The landscape of our emotional traumas and wounds is something that stays with us, and it can haunt our every waking moment if we're not able to heal it. It can be difficult to describe how heavily it weighs on us, and we feel powerless to lift it. But there is a process that can release us from this pain and give us a way of thinking about it that can change it from being an inescapable fact to something that can no longer harm us. Our state of consciousness in the present moment is the means by which we're hurt or saved from hurt from our old emotional wounds. In other words, if a negative memory has the power to hurt us, it's only through our state of consciousness in the present moment. If we can find peace in the present moment on a consistent basis continually, then we can have peace from the torment of our past. It would seem that our past torments are inescapable and unavoidable, that they are branded into the flesh of our soul, in a manner of speaking, and that the burning and the pain and the hurt from these wounds can never be healed. However, whatever state of consciousness we are in during our present moment can either be a locked gate keeping such hurt out, or an open gate inviting this hurt in. So we need to identify what allows our past hurts to bring us pain and sorrow in the now. If you lived in a world that was made of your own thoughts, then the only thing that could hurt you would be your own negative thoughts. People and events would no longer be there to attack you. You'd be in a world of consciousness. In such a world, it would be easy to see that the biggest source of your suffering is your anger, blame, and self-hatred, stemming from your blame of others and yourself. If you could get rid of this kind of thinking and be free of it for good, you could live in happiness and peace. And what is true for that world is largely true for this world as well. That if we can get rid of the suffering associated with blame, we can shed our anger and guilt and live a much better quality of life. Blame, negative thinking, and feeling comes from the belief that people have free will. You believe that a person was, at the moment they did something harmful to you, capable of not doing it. Because that person has in your mind free will, then they had a choice and they made the wrong choice. This is the fundamental source of all hatred. But you can look back at your past actions and see that when you did the wrong things in a particular situation, that looking back on it now, you realize that you can judge your actions, but at the moment you were actually doing them, you were simply doing what you felt like doing. There was no conscience telling you that it was wrong, and even if there was a conscience there, it wasn't strong enough to stop you from doing the wrong thing. In other words, our actions happen in a series of moments that narrow down to a single course of action on our part. We don't have our future events and consciousness hovering over our consciousness at the moment that we make decisions in order to grant us a future perspective of how our current actions are going to affect our future. We simply live. People do what they feel compelled to do. This doesn't mean that we can't improve or change or make better decisions in the future. This doesn't mean that we can't set goals and reach them. But right or wrong, we all do what we feel compelled to do. Some people act more out of conscience, and some more out of guilt or habit or fear, and some have neither guilt nor conscience guiding their actions. The myth of the conscientious criminal is that a person who harms others is capable of better course of action in the moment that they commit a crime, because we ourselves are capable of making a better decision in that moment, and we assume that they are exactly like us. We believe that the criminal also has a conscience to the same degree we do, that, however, they simply choose to ignore it. But the fact is that the criminal may have very little or no conscience at all, and without that voice of consciousness, they don't have the ability to make the right decision. As an example, crystal meth addiction can rob people of their good judgment due to the way in which the drug attacks the judgment centers of the brain. Good judgment is immediately suppressed by the use of the drug. The drug catches the person in a rapid spiral of addiction and demands that they use more and more of the drug and take part in behaviors that supply them with the money to feed their habit. But when a person gets free of the drug, they can become a completely different person. Addiction can make a person into a monster, At this time that they are using, they're not even fully aware of how much they have lost themselves to the drug. But after recovery, they can certainly see how badly they were affected and what negative choices they made under the influence of the drug. Now, would you condemn and judge someone who has become addicted to crystal meth and say that they're an evil or bad person because they're behaving like a criminal? Because they're abandoning their children and not giving them the attention and care that they need? Because they're stealing money from their family members? But you can meet them again years later, free from the drug, and they might be a very kind and responsible person, even loving and giving. But at the time of their addiction, they felt compelled to do negative things. The fundamental choice we make in every moment is to see that people are compelled to act in the way that they act, or we can choose to blame them. But if we choose blame, then we simultaneously choose blame against ourselves by ourselves as well. We can't have one and then avoid the other. Our self-condemnation automatically is implied by our condemnation of others. We open the door to one, we open the door to the other in terms of what's going on in our own mind. People may have done things to us that are terrible and seem unforgivable, but from their perspective, they did what they felt compelled to do. They may even hate themselves for having done it at the time, but their compulsion was stronger than their dislike for their doing it. If we had to switch places with people, thinking their thoughts and living their lives, we would no longer be able to stand in judgment over them. We wouldn't be able to see ourselves through another lens. We would lose our position of judgment and moral authority, and we would simply do the exact same thing that they did, committing the same crimes, hurting the same people, in the same ways, exactly. But we have the luxury of not doing this, of standing separate from that person and judging and condemning them. We may go through life and have no one ever really understand us, what we feel, what we like, what matters to us. We may have people in our lives that we consider to be friends, but even they may not know us very well. But there will certainly be times when they judge and condemn us. We can judge and condemn others from a position of moral superiority, but it's really a position of ignorance. It's based on our ignorance of another person rather than our knowledge of them. The fact that we choose to or tend to superimpose our own mind onto others and say that they are exactly like us is ridiculous. People can be very different from one another, and their thought processes can also be very different. What we take for granted, for others, does not even exist. In this series of videos on healing old emotional wounds through forgiveness, I'll discuss various stages of thought around the issue of forgiveness and free will. But the final process of forgiveness is a gradual one. It requires a desire to change, and it could take years. It's taken me 10 years to go from the point of understanding that I really want to achieve forgiveness to actually significantly achieving it on a regular daily basis. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said that although I'd made progress on a daily basis, I hadn't made much progress at all. It's only been in the last 6 months or so that I've made significant progress towards this goal. 10 years is a long time, and it may take you a long time to achieve your goal, but you can do it, and it comes only from the necessary desire to be free from judgment, blame, hatred, and self-hatred and guilt. Remember that if you choose to go down this road, that it's not about techniques. It's not about how you do it. The how is really simple. You just want it. And if you want it, then eventually you will have it. There'll be many times in this process when you'll be filled with self-hate or anger and you'll feel like you've achieved absolutely nothing, but that's not true either. Remember, it takes time to change. Even though this process is gradual, the final leap is dramatic and significant. What you thought was impossible can one day be your reality. Thanks and good luck.